Hello everyone and welcome back to Empire Pro, or if you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I want to discuss something that is kind of out of the norm from what I usually do on this channel. I try to stay positive and focus mostly on the content and video essays and the history of pro wrestling. But for today's video, I want to focus on just what it is within WWE that I and many fans feel is a detriment to the promotion in 2025. That, of course, being Triple H and TKO. But if we're being honest, this video is mainly going to focus on the greed of WWE's new regime and how desperate they are to commercialise their product, often to the detriment of their own storylines, fan engagement, and more than ever, taking away from the fan opinion and entertainment. If the Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux releases taught us anything, it's that WWE doesn't truly care what their fans think. WWE tells us what we want, instead of listening to their fan base directly. I completely understand that there's a difference between the in-house crowds at a WWE show to the online internet wrestling community. However, it feels that over the last year in particular, WWE have become more and more disconnected with both sets of viewers. By all means, WWE still has the power to produce great shows and matches from time to time, as well as tell some great stories, but there's also been a lot of terrible storytelling, leaving a lot more to be desired, and sometimes being guilty of straight up dropping storylines without any context or warning. To avoid me just nonsensically rambling in this video, I'm going to split it into three main chapters, focusing on WWE's greed, their counter-programming problem with AEW, and the current quality of the product. So without further ado, let's take a look at WWE's biggest problems in 2025. Christ, where do I even begin with this? WWE, particularly since their TKO merger with themselves and the UFC, have become increasingly more driven to expand their network of branding and partnerships, often to the detriment of their own product. Now, don't get me wrong, former owner Vince McMahon had very similar intentions. However, the way TKO and Nick Khan, the president of WWE and a director on the board of TKO, go about their business in a way that is very media predatory. In layman's terms, it's very in-your-face approach to marketing. Look no further than the giant business logos plastered all over the canvas on Monday Night Raw, or their PLEs over the last year and a half. And the fact that every table spot in WWE, fans are now constantly reminded about the invention of Slim Jims, which, side note, I tried when I was in the US about 10 years ago, and they're basically just a shit pepperoni. And again, I can't complain too much about a business trying to make as much money as possible. However, over the course of 2025 in particular, the way the company makes their massive income is why so many fans are starting to sour on the company as a whole. Another glaringly obvious problem is ticket sales. Yet it's true that the economical state of the world and cost of living are always changing, but this doesn't justify the quite honestly insane prices WWE are charging for their events, particularly for those live tapings and PLEs. There have been a lot of discourse lately online about WWE's WrestleMania 42 prices in Vegas, with even the cheaper seats at the back of the arena, you know, the ones that are basically in the car park, still being priced at around $800 on the low end. Contrastingly, if you want a front row seat for the two-night extravaganza that is WrestleMania, you'll have to sell your home, divorce your wife, and maybe take up drug dealing, because you'll be expected to fork out close to $70,000. And I'm not trying to feed into the WWE AEW fanbase war when I say this, but just for a comparison, I paid a little over £100 for a really good seat at AEW's All In 2024 at Wembley Stadium. So WWE charging anywhere from $800 to $70,000 for a ticket is utterly disgusting and unnecessarily greedy. And of course, let's not forget WWE's partnership with Saudi Arabia. After promoting events in Saudi Arabia since 2014, WWE then struck up a partnership with the Saudi royal family and the Ministry of Sport in Saudi Arabia in 2018, worth a reported $100 million per year for WWE over a 10-year partnership running through till 2028. This would see WWE host 2 live events there each year in cities of Riyadh and Jeddah for a total of $1 billion for a 10-year partnership. And unless you've been living under a rock, there's a lot of consequences to this deal for the Westerners. Women must cover their bodies at all times, including the wrestlers themselves. The shows were often poor in quality due to the Saudi royal family requesting legends over regular roster members, as well as the political and social minefield that is Saudi Arabia. I don't know how much I could really say on YouTube, so you best just look into that one for yourselves. Basically, the human rights that people have in Saudi Arabia aren't exactly the best, shall we say. And that's something WWE should proudly be standing against. However, when a fat paycheck gets put in front of you, morals often go out the window. And you might be thinking, well, hang on a minute, wasn't that Vince's bright idea to begin with? And to some degree, you'd be right. However, have TKO and Triple H pulled out of this deal? No. In fact, WrestleMania 43 will emulate live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia in 2027, as well as hosting the Royal Rumble in 2026. It wasn't even permitted for women to attend shows in 2016. Then in 2017 they could, but only accompanied by a man. In 2019 the first women's match was ever held in Saudi Arabia, and somehow in 2027 they get a WrestleMania before we do in the UK. For fuck's sake. And making this announcement less than 2 months after WWE's second ever all-women's PLE, Evolution, is one hell of a slap in the face. This ain't no evolution, this is a step backwards. Get your bodysuits and oversized t-shirts ready, ladies. We're off to Saudi. Honestly, shameful. Another issue with current-day WWE is their constant need to counter-program their main North American competitor, AEW. In some cases, just creating entire events from scratch, often with very short notice, to try and take viewership away from AEW and draw more attention to their product. Again, on its face, this isn't something I'm completely against. I'm certainly more of a WWE fan than an AEW fan, but I personally think the need to create events, particularly PLEs, with very little build, just takes away from your own product, even if the positive is that you take some viewership away from AEW. AEW have certainly done this plenty of times too with some of their bigger pay-per-view events and special editions of Dynamite, but particularly in 2025, WWE's approach to this has been far more egregious, with the return of WWE's Saturday Night Main Event often going head-to-head with AEW Collision or one of their major pay-per-views, as well as WWE WrestlePalooza going head-to-head with AEW's All Out. AEW did have their show slightly earlier to try and get around this, however WWE retaliated by putting John Cena vs Brock Lesnar as their opener. Another side note here, but I much preferred AEW All Out over WrestlePalooza. Despite its extremely long runtime, the show was probably the best pay-per-view I've watched this year. I don't really watch AEW that regularly, but this pay-per-view made me feel more positive about the direction of the promotion, especially headed into 2026. Overall, counter-programming in pro wrestling is not entirely a bad thing. The Monday Night Wars being a perfect example of this, putting two rival promotions against each other, WWF and WCW, forcing each other to better their product. However, WWE's incessant need to counter-program AEW has largely been to the detriment of their own product. I think it's pretty safe to say that WWE's product lately has been pretty underwhelming. The words stale and playing it safe certainly spring to mind for me. With the main issue, in my opinion, being very lazy or uninspired creative decisions and booking, as well as sometimes dropping storylines altogether, or starting a storyline with no definitive end goal in sight. There's the El Grande Americano storyline that continues on and on with no end in sight. There's Natalia's character changing on Triple A into something really cool and refreshing, despite WWE not using her on WWE television. There's the Wyatt Six attacking the tag team Revolving Door on SmackDown, again to no particular end. They booked Cody very safe and bland as a babyface. They didn't strike when the iron was hot with Karrion, Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux. They've put a badass Julia with a goofy manager. They completely botched the whole Ron Killings return. I could go on and on, honestly. But at the very top of the list, one storyline takes the cake as the biggest missed opportunity possibly in the history of WWE. The John Cena heel turn. With Cena turning heel on Cody and selling his soul to The Rock, WWE made a ballsy play to put one of their top babyfaces, arguably of all time, as their top heel, during his retirement run no less. But what should have been a Hulk Hogan Bash at the Beach levels of betrayal on steroids turned out to be nothing more than weeks of generic heel promos that didn't make a lot of sense, followed by maybe the worst face turn of all time, with Cena just showing up on a random episode of SmackDown ahead of his SummerSlam title match with Cody and basically saying, yeah, I can't really be arsed anymore, I'm just bored of being a bad guy, innit, lol. WWE have royally messed up John Cena's retirement run, and in my opinion, it's a common problem and theme that WWE have had throughout the last year or so. Booking without looking forward, without any end goal in sight. And don't get me wrong, I still love WWE, and I still love pro wrestling. But the year of 2025 in WWE has certainly been a blunder. Let's just hope that for the remainder of the year, as well as looking forward to 2026, WWE has some new, fresh ideas. Something that the fans can really get behind. Because right now, there's a lot left to be desired. Thank you all for watching this video. I understand it's a bit of out of the norm from my usual content. I promise I'm usually far more positive about the landscape of pro wrestling. But this video was something that was been in the works for a while now. Something that's been on my mind and I really wanted to talk to you guys about. I'm really sorry that I've been away for a while. My mental health hasn't been the best, but I'm in a much better place now, and there'll be far more regular content coming up, including my part 2 of the top 100 indie wrestlers coming very, very soon. I know quite a few of you have been waiting on that for a while, and I promise it's almost done. So, won't put a time frame on it, but it's coming very, very soon, and I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you all in the next video. As for me, Empire, out.